that airplanes have to measure their airspeed. You've got to keep them in prior to that time because it gets too hot. And we look at the air data that we're getting off the probes to make sure it's okay, and we'll start utilizing it in the system to fly the airplane. And again, we got somewhere around that point, John's going to end up turning off this flash evaporator we turned on going up so that it took and I'm monitoring my instruments, making sure that John's are right, and coming in on the landing, I deploy the gear, or we back each other up on deploying the landing gear. We're doing that when we're decelerating to about 270 knots, and calling out airspeeds and altitudes to John to make sure that he hits 185 knots, or pretty close to it.
That's right. What our real job is to monitor the vehicle, and in case it, that's what they're paying us for. We're supposed to monitor it and follow the guidance until such times as it might indicate that it's not doing right, and then we're supposed to take over and fly the vehicle to a safe landing. And that's our job. And if the vehicle is working normally and all these sensors are working properly, well, it'll be a piece of cake.
Here's the situation as we stand now. The critical heating of the spacecraft is due to end in about 2 minutes. The blackout, the communications blackout, is about to end in something like 5 minutes, call it, and then we'll have some tracking on the spacecraft and know how it survived that burn through those terrible temperatures. After that'll take us to about 13 minutes from touchdown, and after that, a lot of things will happen very, very fast. Touchdown in about 17 minutes. We'll be back with more coverage of the Columbia's landing after this.
The landing strip for the Columbia Shuttle Orbiter, and we are expecting her here in about 18 minutes or so from right now, a little less than that actually. We expect to have communication, as a matter of fact, with the Columbia Shuttle Orbiter in about 2 minutes or so. Communication reestablished after a 21-minute blackout.
It's counting down to acquisition of signal at the Buckhorn tracking station at Edwards. That's the first place where we will get telemetry. If Vandenberg's successful in bringing back up their system, we may get C-band radar ahead of that contact, ahead of that time.
What they're saying is that they expect to be back in touch in about 2.5 minutes now. They've got the chase planes up there. Is that tough for the chase planes to intercept this thing coming down as fast as it is, Joe?
It is. It's fast and it's very high because the T-38's not all that maneuverable at 40,000 feet. If they're in the wrong part of the racetrack pattern, there's no way they can make that interception turn. So you'll hear Houston give them a time hack as soon as they get tracking to tell them when the orbiter will cross that rendezvous point.
There's one of the chase planes now.
Mark 2 minutes. Time we should be able to talk to the crew aboard Columbia.
You think of the difficulty of being in a fairly small jet like that in a great big sky, trying to find something coming at you at something like 4,000 miles an hour, which is about the size of a DC-9. It is very difficult to pick it up.
That's right. John McBride will be mortified if he doesn't make the join up, but it's a tough job.
And those are the same pilots that were at Cape Canaveral when it took off.
Yes, indeed.
And I believe it took off something like last year, didn't it? It doesn't seem like 2 days ago.
Well, it was a different era.
They come out at 34 miles up there, going more than 8,000 miles an hour, so they're moving right along.
And we should be picking them up. We should be not picking them up, but we should be getting the first signals that they got through in about 1 minute and 15 seconds. So they're that close. And after that, a lot of things, as I say, happen very quickly. They will pass over the Big Sur coast here in California
1 minute.
6 times the speed of sound. But after that, I mean, their critical periods are over. Their communications will be restored. The heating will have ended, and they will be
9,700 feet per second call.
They will be turning into a glider.
They're dropping now at 9,700 feet, and they're going...
AOS.
Stand by. Mark.
I thought we got an acquisition of signal.
Control.
I thought we did too.
This is really the most important moment.
Disregard the Mach 9 call. We'll give it again shortly.
That's what I thought,
We'll go.
They could be off course. They could have suffered, shall we say, thermal damage, all kinds of damages coming down. You'll know that in about 15 or 20 seconds.
Feet. Range to go 410 nautical miles.
Stand by for Mark on 9,700 feet per second.
Sounds good.
Hello, Houston. Columbia's here.
Hello, Columbia. Houston's here. How do you read?
Loud and clear, and we're doing Mach 10.3 at 180 AS.
And we couldn't agree more, John. Your state vector's good. We've got good data in-house.
Okay, it looks to me like the yellow over D is nominal.
Now we think we may get a picture of it. A little tiny speck on your screen, and you're going to have to look very closely.
Mark, Mach 9 at 9,700 feet per second.
This is from the Air Force
Columbia,
long-range
perfect
camera.
energy, perfect ground track.
Roger that.
And as you can hear, I think,
Columbia
it's
now 9 times
perfectly
the speed
moving.
of sound. Flight dynamics
And John,
officer
we're
says
showing
he's
you rolling
perfect.
right. Looking good.
Right, normal roll.
Rolling now.
But get us slowed up a little bit as they come in.
Chase will be on time.
Okay.
Those are the chase aircraft. we're
Altitude
talking.
152,000 feet, range 311 miles, speed Mach 8.8.
Well, they're right on the
Roll
money.
reversal complete.
Right on the money.
Columbia, we show you out of 151K now. 8.4 Mach, looking good.
Roger that, Dan. I got a solid TACAN lock on TACAN 2 and 3.
Roger that, Cripp. We're looking.
Approaching the coast of California now.
All three APUs hanging in there, looking good.
Roger that. We concur.
Their
We have a
hydraulic
live
systems in
television
good
picture
shape.
from the optical tracker at Anderson Peak.
That looks like it.
Yeah.
You can see it outlined against the
Crossing the
sky.
coastline
We
now.
show you crossing the coast now.
Roger that. We concur.
6.6.
141,000 feet,
Dolphin.
range
And Columbia,
240
we like
miles.
the TACANs. Go ahead and take them.
Okay, going in.
We are now just about 10 minutes away from touchdown here at
Crew
Edwards.
now incorporating tactical air navigation system data into the spacecraft. Mach 7. 135,000 feet, range 221 miles.
Columbia,
Dead on the ground
very
track.
quiet to us.
Let's go out in here, too. What a way to come to California.
Columbia, you're out of 130K now on the tracking. 6.4 Mach, looking good.
Roger that. We agree with those numbers.
And Columbia, your nav state with TACAN is perfect.
Roger that.
Mach 6, 124,000 feet. Range 177 miles.
And John, we're seeing near zero aileron trim.
We're seeing 210. Yeah, less than that now.
Roger that, out of 119K, 5.5 Mach.
All flight controllers giving perfect report.
Roger, we copy.
Slowing.
Yes, hydrogen purge in progress.
Roger that, out of 112K, 4.8 Mach.
4.8 times the speed of sound.
John Young rolling using manual control now.
We see Del as 21 degrees.
Roger that, looking good.
Mach 4.4, 107,000 feet. Range 112.
Near the Tehachapi Range now. Mountains in California.
John, as a control in NASA terminology, is terminal area energy
Roll
management.
reversal complete. Control looks good.
Columbia, we see roll reversal complete. Control looks good.
Ropes coming out.
They should be very near Bakersfield now.
And you're starting to get ammonia cooling now.
Roger, we concur.
And Columbia, you're out of 100K with positive C. Looking good.
Lower than 100,000 feet.
Ejection seats can be used now.
Beautiful.
Below 100,000. Mach 3.
Big ropes out.
That's the landing control room on your screen now here at Edwards Air Force Base.
Roger that. Looking good. We're looking at them. And you're coming right down the chute.
Rudder active now, looking good. Range 73 miles.
Columbia, we're go for air data. You're out of 89K, 2.8 Mach.
Still twice the speed of sound. 89,000 feet.
Air data's in.
Should hear a sonic boom.
Roger that. We're looking.
Okay, take in failure.
Roll reversal to the right.
Columbia, we see you coming right. Looking good.
Okay, Joe, I'm having a hard time seeing the talkbacks on those landing gear hydraulic isolation valves. They look okay to you?
Okay, Cripp, they all look good to us.
Roger that.
Big S-turns, Joe Kerwin.
No
Not in this
indication
case.
of it.
Not in this case.
Coming
We now
right
have a
in.
live television picture from the long-range optics at Dryden Flight
Columbia, you're
Research
coming
Center.
right down the track. The tracking data, nav data, and pre-plan trajectory are all one line on our plot boards here.
Roger, we concur.
Out of 70,000 feet at Mach 1.8, range 42 miles.
That is absolutely what the flight plan called for.
Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely. I mean, within inches.
They're going to be overhead here shortly.
Columbia, we show you very slightly high in altitude, coming down nicely, and the FES is to go to off.
Mach 1.3 at 58,000 feet.
Close.
Range 33 miles.
They're nearing the west edge of the lake bed on which they will land now.
Out of 56K, looking good.
The sonic booms will be beginning around this part of California in just a minute.
Mach 1 at 51,000 feet. Range 28 miles.
Columbia, you're going subsonic now, out of 50K, looking good.
Got to be about overhead. Those will be the chase.
Right.
If we watch them, we might pick it up.
Everything looking good.
Columbia, you're approaching the hack now, right on the money.
We just had the sonic booms here. I don't know if you could hear them or not.
You're getting ready to start the big sweeping turn into the runway.
Chase has a tally.
Chase has him in sight.
And Cripp, the altimeter, 3009er.
Feet. Range 19 miles.
It is still descending
Columbia, you're coming right around the hack, looking beautiful.
at a downward glide path of 20 degrees, which is a very, very precipitous descent.
30,000.
They're going down about 13,000 feet
Control
per
very
minute,
smooth.
or dropping like a stone, as people on the ground say, but fully in
Columbia,
control.
you're really looking good, right on the money, right on the money. And we're seeing 1.3 Gs coming around the hack.
Roger that.
And turning on to final, your winds on the surface are calm.
I got a wind.
25,000 feet.
Not a lot of stress on the pilots at this point or on the astronauts. Joe Kerwin.
No, they have it made now.
They're still dropping very quickly, and the next thing they'll
Mach
do
0.6.
is-
Range 13 miles.
is change the attitude.
22,000 feet. Control looking very smooth. Speed brake at 40.
That's the picture from the chase planes that
We
you're
have a
looking at now.
television picture now.
There it is.
You're right on the glide slope, Columbia.
There it is.
Right on glide slope. Approaching center line. Looking great.
This TV from the chase plane. $16,000 feet.
Mark 15.
Airspeed 271 knots.
The normal landing for a DC-9 is about
Fido says it couldn't
185.
be any better.
They will be down in that vicinity when they land here in about another minute and a
11,000
half.
feet.
That's real good underneath.
$9,000. $280 knots.
Everything looks real good. $5,290.
They're within 5 miles of the landing strip right now.
Okay.
2,500 feet.
Clear?
You heard him say pre-flare. That means he's going to change the angle from a 20-degree glide path to a 5-degree glide path.
There you can see him leveling off and
Now you
beginning
can
to
see him
flare up.
leveling off. That's it. That was pre-flare, and they did it. The next thing is the gear to go down. The landing gear would have to go.
Here now.
There it is.
Right behind you, John.
40, 30,
There he
20.
is. See him?
Yeah.
10.
It's incredible. It looks like Los Angeles Airport. It's perfect, and he's coming back from space.
2, 1, touchdown.
There they're down.
Here's 10 feet. 5, 4, 3, touchdown. Look him out, skipper.
Got all the wheels down and it's rolling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can see the little chase planes nearby.
Welcome home, Columbia. Beautiful, beautiful.
Well, that's hardly the word. It's majestic. Now that plane will roll
Test it off first.
and slow down. It'll take about rolled about a mile now.
I'll tell you that. It was super.
Okay, convoy's on its way.
Convoy 1, wheel stop for the Columbia. Wheel stop.
That's it.
It's going to get a lot of attention from now on. And there you can see it behind us. It was an exceptional sight, especially after having witnessed it take off 54 and a half hours ago and watch it come back
This is Mission
here.
Control Houston,
Go,
the
Crippen.
unofficial touchdown
You ever get used to that kind of thing in the NASA
2 days,
astronaut
6 hours,
Not if
20
you're in
minutes,
it.
52 seconds.
That beauty's got
2 days,
99
6
more
hours,
flights
20
on it,
minutes,
and I want to
52
fly about
seconds.
8 of them.
And Columbia, Houston, we're estimating at least 26 more minutes on the ammonia. You're looking real good.
Now, what they're going to do now is that the technicians are going to go out there and sniff around to see if there are any toxic or hazardous chemicals
And as Columbia's
that are
main
still
gear
aboard.
touched the lake bed, the flight director's instructions were prepare for exhilaration.
They gave him 15 seconds at Mission Control to have a whoopee.
Oh,
as they
that's
put it.
right, that's
Then they had
right.
to put him back to work again.
I guess the whoopie's over already.
Houston, Columbia 18 shutdown is complete. Going on the doors.
Don't expect the astronauts
Roger.
to pop right out. They'll be in there for a while. There's a lot to do, and there are some toxic and explosive
Convoy is proceeding
materials
toward,
still
Columbia at
perhaps
this time.
aboard this aircraft. So they'll have to go very carefully about that. And astronauts Young and Crippen are still in their suits, and there's a great deal to be done before we'll see them come out at the end of this extraordinarily successful mission.
They've got to power it down, don't they? They've got a lot of switches and toggles to shut off.
And believe it or not, they still have a few tests to run as they power these systems down. All at their leisure now.
I must say, John Young told me before they launched it that he would be happy if they got it up and got it back.
They did, and he is.
This is Mission Control, Houston. We expect the crew to be able to get out of Columbia in about 45 minutes. That's a phenomenal time for safing and power down.
That was the quiet voice of Jack Riley, I believe, at Mission Control in Houston. They all have adopted the laconic mode at NASA. They're really very controlled and all that. They weren't so controlled when the shuttle landed, though, today, and we took some pictures of that at that time so we can show you what it's like in Mission Control in Houston at the conclusion of a mission that hours, 20 minutes and 52 seconds. That's how long it was. And that's the scene in Mission Control at the end of this successful mission of Columbia.
Beautiful, beautiful. Houston, Columbia, would you take a look at our home's RCS? We think it's in proper configuration. Nice.
Roger, stand by, please.
I'll tell you something, for those of us who fly in commercial airliners, you see that one come back down 36 orbits after it left this Earth and land about a minute and a half within the scheduled landing time and right on the button in terms of the runway.
Tom, I have some reservation forms here. Would you care to fill one out?
I'll tell you. I bet they didn't lose any luggage either.
No, that's right.
Columbia, Houston, and convoy. OMS RCS safing is complete.
What you'll be seeing before long around the Space Shuttle there is a small fleet of trucks, and some of them with a very special purpose. The sniffers are there now, as they're called, the hazardous gas technicians. And something called the vapor disposal unit is going to be working before long. But these are men in specially equipped suits to see if there was, for example, excess hydrogen, various toxics.
Around, Columbia using sniffers to detect any gases that may be escaping from the spacecraft.
Joe, if you look at that picture, I think you'll see that the tiles seem to be remarkably in place. That's something
yes.
we were all looking for. We can't see it at very close range from here, but there certainly wasn't any large-scale breaking away of the tiles.
Any residual concern that we may have had was dissipated instantly when they called up at Mach 12 and said, nominal, we're on the right trajectory, our trim values are low, because one of the first things if a tile came off would be to affect the aerodynamics.
All right, well, it's looking good down here on the ground, just as it looked good up there in space, and as it flew in its final approach.
Say that again, Crippen,
The
please.
Columbia is back, right on schedule, and we'll continue with our coverage of its activities now that it's back here at Edwards Air Force Base. We'll continue right after this. Air Force Base on the Tri-Lake bed behind us. That's the Columbia orbiter with astronauts John Young and Robert Crippen back right on schedule. They'll be in there for about another, 40 minutes or so before they can come out, but all of the post-landing procedures going very smoothly. They're not finding any toxic gases or anything wrong with the outside of the orbiter, and we presume that it's all going well inside as well. Let us show you now the landing of the Columbia orbiter 36.5 orbits after it took off from Cape Canaveral, Kennedy Space Center, on Sunday, just 54.5 hours ago. This is what the landing looked like here. In that steep pitch, John Chancellor, at about 22 degrees, 7 times as great as a commercial airliner, beginning to flare out now. Young at the controls, a dead stick landing, so-called. No power. It's a glider at this point, and gliding very well, even though it's dropping fast. This part of the flight at least had been tested once before. Commander John Young returning from his 5th flight in space. This soft-spoken man from Georgia Tech has been on the moon, now has flown this historic first mission of the space shuttle. Pretty good scrapbook at the young home, I would think, by this time.
I should think so.
And look at that landing in front of a few million people on television and lots of people here at Edwards Air Force Base.
Lots of millions on television, I would think, Tom. Gee, look at that. Those tiles just absolutely stayed on. I confess to having been scared to death about them. I think I'm not alone in that, incidentally. But look at that. That whole complicated system. It's the most complex vehicle ever assembled in the history of our species to do anything. There's the part of the convoy that's going out to surround the aircraft.
Well, NASA must be very happy because they'd had more than their share of problems with this space shuttle in terms of cost and delays. It's 2 years overdue. There are some critics who say it is not being used properly. It'll be used far too much for military purposes. But this very successful first test flight ought to make NASA happy and indeed proud.
Okay, excuse me, Joe, but I was just going to say that the convoy commander, those trucks that we see around the shuttle now, says that they found nothing dangerous or unusual when they checked out the aircraft, when the so-called sniffers went in there. The purge vehicles are on their way out there now.